the types of fat in a little bit more detail. So the two types of fat that you may have heard of already are saturated fat and unsaturated fat. And the only difference is how the carbon atoms on our fatty acid chain, so our fatty acid chains are made of carbon and hydrogen, and it's how the carbon atoms are bonded together which depicts whether it's a saturated or unsaturated fat. So let's just have a look at our fatty acid chain in a little bit more detail with regards to, so we'll do saturated fat first, so it's clear. Saturated fat tends to be solid at room temperature. It mainly comes from animal products, and it's been given the name, well, it is sort of the bad fat. It is the bad fat. So let's have a look at the structure of this fatty acid chain. So this is our carbon atoms, and we have our hydrogen atoms attached. Now in between our carbon we have single bonds. So this is our fatty acid chain. And the chain is composed of single bonds. Single bonds between the carbon atoms. That's quite simple. So that's a saturated fat. So let's have a look now at the difference between an unsaturated fat. Now an unsaturated fat will have, and there are different variations of saturated fat, but on the basic level, just to begin with, let's give it its name, unsaturated. So basic is, on the fatty acid chain, there will be a double bond. Okay, so there will be a double bond, or double bonds. Double bonds between the carbon atoms. Now let's look, let's talk about this in a bit more detail. Unsaturated fat tends to be liquid at room temperature, tend to come from plant sources, and there are some good unsaturated fats. So let's have a look at the good ones and how they're structured. So we'll discuss this structure first. As it stands, on this unsaturated fat, we can give it a subcategory. There is, at this moment in time, one double bond. And because there's one double bond, we know that one in science means mono. So we can call this structure a mono unsaturated fat. It has one double bond. It has one double bond. But let's say now we have many double bonds. This would be classed as a polyunsaturated fat. So a polyunsaturated fat has many double bonds. Many double bonds. Okay, so, and it's unsaturated fat, which is the good fat, and we're going to do probably another video which discusses the polyunsaturated fat, and the two main common ones are omega-3 and omega-6. They are a polyunsaturated fat, and we'll do a different video which looks at them in more detail. So just to clarify, a saturated fat, the carbon is linked by single bonds. Unsaturated fat have double bonds. If there is just one double bond between the carbon atoms, it's a mono unsaturated fat. And if there are many double bonds linking the carbon atoms together, it is a polyunsaturated fat.